Good morning. Welcome to today's meeting of the ESPO Management Committee. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube and it will also be available for viewing after the meeting. We have received apologies from Councillor Butlin from Warwickshire County Council and also Councillor Fitzgerald from Peterborough City Council. I also welcome Richard Bookby from Fortis, who joins us today. I move on to our first item, which is appointment of chairman. Councillor Peck has been nominated to be chairman for the municipal year ending April 23. Please, can I have this formally nominated and seconded? Sorry, can somebody press the microphone so we can hear on the webcam?
It's been moved and seconded. Andrew Jemison proposing that Mr. Peck is chairman of the meeting. Councillor James Poland seconding that.
Lovely, thank you very much. Are there any further nominations or seconders? Any further nominations? Thank you. Right, I now confirm Councillor Peck is in the chair. Over to you, Councillor Peck.
Thank you very much, Anna. Second item on the agenda is Mrs. Maggie Wright was appointed as Vice Chairman for the municipal year ending June 2023. Item 3 on the agenda, the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of June 2022. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on 29th of June 2022 be approved. Do we have a seconder for that? Oh. Thank you, James. Item 4, to advise of any items that the chairman has decided to take as urgent elsewhere on the agenda. There are no urgent items. So we move to item 5, declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda. Are there any declarations? No declarations. Item 6, items referred by the Finance and Audit Subcommittee. There are no items referred by the subcommittee. The issues considered by the subcommittee are covered in items 11 and 12, which appear elsewhere on the agenda. Item 7, Director's Progress Update. For this item, Christian will introduce his progress update since the previous meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So, purpose of my report is to inform Management Committee of the actions and progress made since the last meeting. You've got financial performance for 6 months to September 2022. And in terms of the financial headlines, I'll just go through the headlines. I'm sure people have had an opportunity to read the report. After 6 months, a surplus of 5.2 million has been made, which is £1.1 million better than budget, which is a really pleasing performance at the half-year mark. Volumes are well ahead of budget and higher demand's been seen throughout our summer peak. Rebate income for our frameworks is £0.8 million ahead of budget. Surplus remains £0.7 million better than last year. And so for the full year, the budget target was a surplus of 5.7 million. In terms of the next level of detail and for sales and margin, you can see total sales were 48.9 million, which was 5.4 million better than budget and 6.6 million pounds better than last year. Store sales up by 7.4% better than budget, although our gross profit margin for stores is slightly down due to the impact of in-year price rises. Direct sales were 12.3 million and 2.4 million pounds ahead of budget, and our gross profit margin percentage for directs was slightly ahead of budget, and that's just largely down to product mix. As we said, rebate income at 5.5 million, that's been really strong this year, is 0.8 million ahead of budget, and the income for our gas service is closely in line with budget. So overall, gross profit margin is at 17.3 million and 1.4 million better than budget. In terms of total expenditure, you can see at £12.1 million, that's 0.3 million higher than budget, but this really is a function of extra volume going through our stores. The key thing for me is expenditure as a percentage of sales, and at that KPI is at 24.7%, which is 2.4% better than budget. In terms of our limited companies performance, there's a £25,000 surplus that's been generated at the end of September. Although the combined budget for the year is £100,000 profit, we expect to be slightly behind this number. So taking us on to full year expectation, there's a number of things going on. We have sales volume that may decline as a result of prices going up. We have framework income that continues to benefit from inflation, and we have an impact of the pay award of £800,000, but a positive impact for the National Insurance Levy reversal of £75,000. So we put all that together. Our latest guidance for the full year trading is a surplus in the range of 5.8 million to 6.2 million. And as a reminder, that budget was 5.7 million. So it's probably a good time just to acknowledge all the work of the senior team at ESPO, and everybody ESPO has contributed to what is a really strong set of numbers at the half year point. In terms of financial planning into 23-24, well, I think we need to be realistic. So that would be my opening gambit there. Obviously, we await the autumn statement tomorrow. But we know and understand public sector customers are facing some very difficult budget challenges, and this all creates uncertainty for our trade environment 2023 to 24. That said, from our own initial commercial planning, we're committed that our MTFS target of £5.8 million for next year is something that we still believe that we will be able to achieve, and we'll look to set out a range that actually stretches beyond that, but committing to the current MTFS target. There's an information on your pack about financial update on the warehouse extension at Grove Park. There's only three things I want to kind of draw out here. One is just a reminder of the cost numbers. So you can see that members delegated a £6.8 million budget, and our project management team are coming up so far with a spend need of £6 million. So that's quite a pleasing position. That said, of course, we're really aware of inflation and the inflationary pressures in our macroeconomy. And so we've also tried to give some reassurance to members by doing some sensitivity analysis, looking through the lens of payback and net present value being positive. And you can see actually as a project, it's not that sensitive if there were to be a change in price. So you can see a 50% overrun changes the payback from 8 years to 10 years as an example. So it's not particularly sensitive to that. Moving on to the second section, ESPO operational progress. Here, this is about trying to give some performance, volume, targets, and some consistency, so you can see how we're performing as an organisation. Back to school month of September, always very busy. We dispatched 228,000 plus order lines, valued at nearly £7 million, and made nearly 30,000 deliveries. Pleased to inform you, warehouse picking was performed at a rate of 39 lines per hour. Members will recall during COVID that pick rate dropped down a bit, but it's good to see that has recovered and above target. There's two other stats I'd like to pull out. The first one is a rather disappointing one, which is our FIFO customer rating, which was down at 70%. This is much lower than our long-established standard for FIFO, but I think reflects the significant challenges in pricing, availability and resources exacerbated in the peak period. I checked our latest FIFO rating yesterday, and I'm pleased to report it's now back up to 95%, but that just really reflects the kind of the stress that goes through the business during that summer peak, where it was particularly rampant in terms of availability and inflation. A stock availability figure averaged 96% in September, and again, looking at that yesterday, it sits now at 98%. I just remind members how important that number is, because we're ever more competing on our supply chain. So fantastic availability not only is what customers wish to see from us, but it also creates efficiency in the business with less calls going into customer services, less follow-on deliveries. So we really match our stock availability as a kind of core statistic now in terms of our trading performance. You have some information on facilities management and health and safety, which I'm not going to dig into today. But I will just talk a little bit about IT. The IT help desk handles 652 inquiries with 100% satisfaction rating. For me, that's really important. It shows the measure of success an IT team have had, making people work in a hybrid way and supporting new ways of working, and 100% satisfaction rating from their colleagues over so many inquiries is really quite impressive. and they finally got around to something that I personally care deeply about, which was replacing the Wi-Fi system. So we've now got an up-to-date Wi-Fi system as well. In terms of cyber security, you can see that there's been 11 attempts reported in September, which were all detected and dealt with, and we've made good progress in meeting recommendations of the cyber security audit. Just a reminder of that audit, there were 49 actions identified, 3 of which were deemed as high recommendations. The ESPO IT team then took those 49 actions and did a kind of classic RAG state analysis to put them into red, amber and green. And pleased to report that we're now at the stage where the red risks have been dealt with and we've managed to mitigate down to amber to green. And that's something, it's an ongoing piece of work. We'll never kind of see that as completed as obviously the threats change. Moving on to staffing updates, the only thing really to tease out here is that ESPO continues to carry a higher number than normal vacancy rate. I'm sure that's something that we're all experiencing across the economy. We're looking at our processes and our reach to try and react to that. It's really important that we get the right resource into ESPO. So there's some active work going on there with our HR business partner. And then finally, ESPO's leadership team held its quarterly review of health, safety, wellbeing and major risk records, and they're appended at Appendix 2. So I'd like to ask Management Committee just to note and support the contents of the report. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Christian? Oh, I can't see it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, looking at the wage pressure for the pay increases, Christian. Obviously, you're looking at the national negotiations, but bearing in mind, you've got inflation running at 11% plus probably. There's obviously going to be an upward pressure going on unless we can see a real fall off in energy and input costs going forward next time. So, be your overview on that. And also looking at your fraud issues, I know from our experience at Lincolnshire, there's been quite a pressure on bank mandate fraud at the moment, really trying to push that. So I just wondered where yourself and
Thank you for that. I will allow Dave to take the second question on fraud. And there's lots of good things we're doing. I'm sure Dave will talk to you about those. In terms of wage pressure, it is a huge thing in the sector. Obviously, we're all local government employees, so we face the same challenges. I suppose the uniqueness of challenge to ESPO is that most of our competitors are private sector, not public sector, and they're able to react much quicker to wage inflation, where we're obviously pegged to the local government pay award. I don't think it helps that it often takes 3/4 of the year to agree even what is agreed. So I don't think that helps in terms of retraining staff. What we have to do is push to our positives. We have a lovely building, ample parking, a nice working environment. We're a successful business. So somebody wants to join a sort of successful public sector organisation, I think we can definitely claim to be that. But absolutely recognise the pressure. We don't have, it's that old dilemma, isn't it? Wherever the pay award is, it's not enough for the people, but it's too much for the P&L. So it's always one of those trying to find the balance. But we are having to be a bit more innovative.
And in respect to fraud, so some of the committee may recall that the business almost got caught out probably 18 months ago. And following that, we undertook a quite detailed review of the processes and put quite a lot of significant enhancements in there. Since that time, internal audit have reviewed the progress that we've made there, and we've come away with full assurance there. And we continue to keep an eye on it. So we recognise that the key risk in this is not so much the process, it's the human interaction in it. And so we've undertaken regular training, both using the LCC's internal training, but also third party as well. And we've recently put in place a new training provider as well. partly to just keep it really current with the staff team so that they get regular refreshers. And it just needs to be at the forefront of people's mind that this risk is there and for people to have the right level of alertness to it. So hopefully the combination of those two factors should have put us in a really much improved place, but it's something we're really mindful of and continually keep reminding the team of.
Okay, any other questions? Council, sorry, that's all right.
It was just around customer services, and you said how pleased you were that it returned to your normal standard, and I think that was caused because of the peak demand during the summer. So what will happen next year when we have another peak demand? Have we got something in place to try and get ahead of the game?
Thank you for that question. So we have done a kind of lessons learned from peak. So that's an active piece of work that's been led by a head of customer experience. I think it was a perfect storm of you have this kind of huge peak in educational supplies, and it was the kind of peak of non-availability. We're ultimately running a sort of supply chain business, and we have every supply chain friction going. So if the sweet spot is to have no friction in the supply chain, we've kind of almost ended up at the extreme opposite of that, with friction all over the place in terms of containers being in the wrong place, in terms of trade agreements, in terms of coming back from COVID, in terms of inflation, in terms of availability of labour through Brexit. So we, like other businesses, and it's quite a negative thing to say, but I will say it's almost about being less bad. So we've actually outperformed many of our competitors, and we'll see that in terms of switching to us. But I don't think anyone's had perfect availability, and quite reasonably, customers, that's what they want and expect. So I think it is, we'd look at them in a weekly trading meeting, so we kind of get underneath where the queries are. And I think it was just that disappointment of mine to get everything to everyone in the way we'd want to. But yeah, to answer your question directly, lessons learned report, and hopefully some of the macro circumstances will improve next year as well.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of comments and a brief query, Christian. The first half figures are excellent and well done to the team for producing that. I noticed that you've subsequently put a price rise in. Have you seen a significant tailing off of orders since? So, you hinted at possible headwinds in the second half. Do you think that's is that a function of price rises, a more difficult environment? Where is that coming from? And then perhaps a brief exposition as a new boy on the team to benchmarking, how you benchmark and how that works.
Yeah, thank you. So if I deal with the first one, so the economist in me believes in price elasticity of demand. So every textbook tells me that there'll be a relationship between pricing and demand, and we've had to put our prices up. So you would imagine it to be so. I think where it gets a little bit more nuanced is so is everybody else. So therefore, it's not quite as clear as, in that kind of perfect marketplace where you get into price elasticity of demand. So I think there's something there in terms of we are expecting to be push back on price rises. We've done our very best to absorb and support customers, but eventually, sometimes these things are time lagged. So we expect that time lag to kick in and to impact volume. And there's some information in the private session I'll talk to you in terms of future volume. But it links nicely to your second question, which is actually ESPO does have a really strong price position. We often like to call ourselves the anchor price. So we do a lot of price benchmarking. So I think we had some headroom, in all honesty, for us to move to, because we're not out and out profit maximizers. We try and find the right blend between a growing profit and a healthy business, and also supporting the customers who ultimately score. So we want to get them the right price we can. So we are expecting volume to tail down. But some of the analysis we wrap around that shows us, that might not be instant. And it's, final thing to say, for all the numbers we know in our business, all members of the leadership team are probably able to recite the whole P&L really well to you. But the one thing we don't know is what the price elasticity of demand number is. So we've done lots of work where people in finance have said it's 1-to-1. That hasn't proved to be the case. So that's almost like the golden missing piece of information that perhaps we'll learn in the next couple of years, but that's kind of the missing thing. We just don't know.
Any other comments? No. In that case, I move that the update provided by the director is noted. Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Dates of future meetings. Meetings will be held at 10:30 a.m. on the following dates for your diaries: 22nd of March 2023, 28th of June 2023, 20th of September 2023, and 15th of November 2023. Future meeting dates for the management committee are detailed on the agenda, and I move that these are accepted. Do we have a seconder for that? Oh, that's Laurel. Thank you. The next meeting of the committee will be held on the 22nd of March 2023 at 10:30 a.m. at County Hall, Glenfield. The next item on the agenda is any other items which the chairman has decided to take as urgent, but as I previously said, there are no urgent items, so we can move straight on. Item 10, exclusion of the press and public. I move that in accordance with the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Wright, thank you. Sorry.
Do you want to hold on a second till we go into
Yeah.
vote?